Our guest tonight is WWE superstar and Fozzy frontman Chris Jericho. How you doing?
I am rocking, man.
You sound rocking. You're always sounding rocking. Listen, you recently released your latest book. No is a four-letter word. How I failed spelling but succeeded in life. Why did you feel now was the right time to write this book, and what are you hoping to accomplish with its release?
Well, it's pretty philosophical, man. Like there's some kind of otherworldly design behind it. Basically, what happened was I'd written 3 autobiographies in the course of 7 years. I love to write. I got lots to write about, but I thought writing a 4th autobiography at this stage of my life would be a little bit pretentious. Does the world really need another Jericho autobiography? I'm not exactly, Jack Kerouac or whatever it is, but I thought that I would answer a question that gets asked to me quite often of how did you do all the things that you do? How'd you make it in wrestling? How'd you make it in music? How do you continue to do all these things? So I sat down and came up with 20 principles of things that I had learned over the years from celebrities and family members and people that I know and fictional characters, and put them all down. 20 principles. Like I said, the David Bowie principle, always reinvent yourself. The Vince McMahon principle, work hard, then work harder. The Steve Austin principle, always be a little bit of an asshole. Like all these little rules that have helped me to get these goals accomplished that I want to accomplish. So it's become almost like a motivational book, a self-help book. And it never really intended it to be that way, but that's kind of how it morphed. And now that it's out, it's really cool to see people's reactions and see how people are gaining a lot of advice from things that I've learned and applying it to their own lives. That's a pretty cool feeling.
Mike Chiari, next question.
You've already enjoyed so much success as an author, but for those thinking about picking up your new book, how would you say that it most differs from your previous ones, and also how do you think it compares to your previous books in terms of how challenging it was for you to write?
Well, I mean, I kind of said it's a little bit different because it's more of like a self-help motivational thing, but it's still filled with ridiculous stories, things about my life that's happened, stupid stuff and fun stuff and all that sort of thing. So it's very much in the vein of the other books, but it's just a little bit more of a theme, a little bit more of a focus behind it. And I mean, a book is a book. It's hard to write. It's never easy to write a book, and I write all my books by myself from cover to cover. So there's a lot of edits and rewrites and a lot of time spent. I think from my second book, I divided the amount of hours that I worked on the book by the amount of money I got for it, and it was like I think $2.14 an hour, and it was hundreds of hours of work for a big chunk of change. But you got to put the time in. It's like anything else that's worth it, whether it's writing a book or making an album or doing a podcast or putting together a wrestling match or whatever it may be. The more time you spend on it, the better it's going to be. And you can't do anything half-assed or it's going to come out that way. And I refuse to have anything that I do not be 1,000% completely all of my effort put into it.
Brandon Gavin, next question.
Well, as you mentioned, your book has received a ton of praise from readers about how easy it is to read and how inspiring it is. You mostly perform in front of live crowds and receive instant feedback. So what was the process like for you waiting for reviews after completing this book?
Yeah, I mean, this is like, it really is like making a record and writing a book. They're very similar. You spend a lot of time creating something from nothing, creating this art, and putting together these stories and these songs, and then you edit, you rewrite, you have to go through it over and over and over again. So by the time it comes out, sometimes you don't even know if it's good anymore. Because you've been living with it for so long, draft after draft after draft. So when it finally comes out, like I said, you get the instant gratification from the reactions. Like I don't have to wait for the review to come out in the New York Post next week. I can just go on Twitter and see how people are responding to all the different things that I've been writing and all the different things that they're learning from it. So, I mean, it's a lot like making a movie. Like I said, you do a lot of different takes and then you get it done and 6 months later it comes out and you're like, holy smokes, this is actually really good. I've forgotten about that. So that's kind of how it works. And it's something that there is something to be said about doing a Fozzy concert or having a wrestling match or, if you're a stand-up comic or, a ballroom dancer, you get that instant gratification, that instant energy and feedback from the crowd. You don't get that when you write a book. So now that it actually has come out and I've been able to do all these interviews for it, do all this press for it, and, and it's another bestseller on my hands, it's a good feeling to know that all the hard work I put into it paid off.
Well, I know you're a huge Kiss fan. I'm a huge Kiss fan. I was very excited to see the foreword of this book, written by Paul Stanley. What went into your decision to ask Stanley to do that, and how did he react when you asked him?
Well, I mean, the whole book kind of started from this quote that Paul said in 1987 in a movie that I saw where he said, the only people that tell you can't do something are the ones that have failed. I'm not going to tell you that you can't do it because I did it. You can do it. And when he said you can do it, I really felt like he was looking right at me, like Paul Stanley was staring at me saying, you can do it. And so that's kind of how I lived my life and focused my career on wanting to be a wrestler and wanting to be in a rock and roll band. I thought, well, Paul Stanley said I can do it, and I don't care what anybody else thinks. So last few years, through a cool set of circumstances, I've become pretty good friends with Paul, and now he's just a dude. He's a friend of mine. So I thought, well, who better to do the forward for the book than a guy who basically kicked it all off with a quote that he said 30 years ago that I'll never forget. He probably didn't remember it. So I just called him up and asked him, and he said, how long should it be? And I said, as long as you want it to be. And he came back with a really cool forward. So it's really great to see that, you know. And then also with Gene Simmons, I happened to see him last week. We were on the same trail of book tour. You know, you go on the same interview places and talk shows and that sort of thing. And we kind of crossed paths a couple times. And he knew all about the Gene Simmons principle because, you know, nowadays you say something or do something and everyone's going to tweet you about it. So he thought that was pretty cool too. And the Gene Simmons principle, of course, is always dress like a star. So little things like that you can learn and take with you for the rest of your life.
Mike Chiari?
One of my favorite things that I've seen in wrestling in a really long time was your Festival of Friendship with Kevin Owens. And I recently saw you talk about how hard you fought for your vision of that segment to make it to TV. So I was wondering if you could maybe describe the process that you had to go through in pitching that and pushing it ahead, as well as maybe some of the ideas that you had for it that might have ended up on the cutting room floor.
Yeah, man, that would take about an hour to go through all that. But the bottom line is I knew what I wanted to do with that. I pitched that a few months ago, and I knew I wanted to be in Las Vegas. I knew I wanted it to be going from David Lee Roth, just a Gigolo video, to the Red Wedding Game of Thrones episodes, where it starts off so fun and carefree and just over the top, and then it ends up with like this horrible betrayal, basically a murder, which is what it was, you know, Kevin Owens murdering the friendship of Jericho and Owens. So, I mean, a lot of those ideas had come up months before or weeks before, and then as is prone to be in the WWE, everything changed, but I refused to let it change because I knew I wanted it to be like the Red Wedding, which comes out of nowhere rather than being something completely obvious. And, you know, there was some verbal jockeying back and forth that day, but, you know, I stood my ground and held my ground and basically got it the way I wanted it. And, you know, from the Festival of Friend Dancers to Festival, or was it Friendship the Magician, all that stuff was mine. You know, getting thrown to the TV as kind of a homage when I threw Shawn Michaels through TV 10 years prior. You know, so it was all kind of in there. There's a few things that I had that weren't. I think I wanted an actual goat out there. You know, a few other things like that. But there was only so much that we could do. But and then they added a couple things too. Vince added the statue. He wanted some kind of a sculpture, intertwining sculpture. And then when I showed up, they just did a ridiculous creation of Kevin painting the Michelangelo painting with our faces on it. And I was like, oh, that's great. I had no input into that one. That was something they just kind of showed me and asked me what I thought about it. And that was a great addition to it as well. So just a lot of creative people working together to get the vision of what they wanted to see and what they wanted to happen. And I think up until the point where Owens actually turned on me, nobody saw it coming as much as everybody says that they did. But they didn't until he actually did, you know, stab me in the back. And that was one of the coolest angles maybe ever in Raw history, I'd say.
Well, you said there was no goat in the ring, but I saw a goat. His name was Chris Jericho. That's all I got to say. That's all I got to say.
No farm goats.
Okay, all right. Okay, specify. Brandon Galvin, next question.
Southpaw Regional Wrestling is one of our favorite things this year. So what was your experience like filming that and playing the role of Clint Bobsky? And do you think that we'll get more episodes in the future?
Yeah, I mean, there's something that I'd heard about a while back. They came up with the idea and asked me if I wanted to be involved. I said, yeah, I want to be the backstage interviewer, Clint Bobsky. That's a name that I've used since college when I used to do I went to like creative communications, so there was a lot of television classes and radio classes. And for whatever reason, whenever we were doing mock sportscasts, so mock radio, on the spot reports, it was always Clint Bobsky. I just love that name. I don't know why. So I used it again for Southpaw. And it was a lot of fun because I used to watch wrestling like that. I think Stampede Wrestling and local wrestling in Winnipeg, it was called WFWA. They were filmed in the exact same kind of cheap, gritty videotape, and the backstage announcers who were over the top, fake, I guess, or playing backstage announcers. Oh my goodness, look at what we have here. I have never seen such a thing. So it was a lot of fun to do, and people were very confused earlier this summer when I came back for SmackDown for one night only, and they thought I was back, but I wasn't back. I was just there because I was filming the second season of Southpaw Wrestling. They asked me if I'd do a match. So I said, well, I might as well. I'm here. But I don't know. I'd love to see them do more. I don't know if it really took off, virally like they thought it would. I'm not sure exactly what the numbers are on that, but it was a lot of fun while we did it, and hopefully we get to do more. But I think a lot of times the initial one is always the best because it's such a surprise and no one really knew what they were getting into. Whereas the second one, everybody wanted to get involved, and some of the characters weren't as strong. I think Miz's guy was terrible in it. Whatever it's called, I can't remember what
Dung.
his name
was. It was something. It was
Adam
Doom.
Yeah.
I just thought that was terrible. It wasn't funny. So, I thought the Butcher guys weren't funny. Whereas the first one, everyone was funny because no one really was trying. They were just being whatever it was they wanted to be. And then, it's like a sequel to a movie. When you stumble onto something, it's never as good as the original. So, if they do more, I'm sure Clint Bobsky will be there. And if they don't, it was a lot of fun while it lasted.
Well, it was recently announced that you will be hosting Chris Jericho's Rock and Wrestling Rager at Sea Cruise in October 2018. How did you come up with the idea, and what can fans expect during the voyage?
Well, I mean, we did the Kiss Cruise in 2015 with Fozzy, and the moment I walked off the cruise, I was like, I could do this. I could do a wrestling cruise and a rock and roll cruise. And I just talked to my manager, and we started working on it. 2 years later, trials and tribulations, we even lost our boat at one point, and that's a long story for another time. But I wanted it to be synonymous with what Chris Jericho was known for, rock and roll and wrestling, but also, live podcasts, paranormal, comedy, all that sort of stuff that I basically have on Talk to Jericho. I wanted it to be on the cruise because the Kiss Cruise was such an amazing experience. It wasn't just about Kiss. There was so much going on and so much to do. I thought I could do this. And there's been kind of wrestling-themed cruises in the past, but never a wrestling cruise where the matches are happening at sea while you're traveling, across the ocean. And we had to do a lot of, engineering and whatever I'm looking for, qualifying, engineering reports to see if the ring could, hold up straight. And I was just on the Kiss Cruise. Kiss's stage is way heavier than Dan Ring is. But still, we had to get the approvals for all that stuff, the estimates and everything. And so what fans can expect is just the greatest destination vacation they could ever want. If they're into wrestling, if they're into rock and roll, if they like to laugh, they want a good time at a big party for everybody, kids to old, 9 to 99. I think it's going to be the cruise of the year. Everyone's talking about it. I think people are still a little bit tentative as to what it is, but now that we've got it off the ground and we've got over a year, which a lot of people think is happening in a month. That's crazy to put it out in a month. I got a call from Stone Cold Steve Austin yesterday going, "Are you crazy? You can't put it out in a month?" I'm like, "Steve, it's in 2018. It's like, "Oh, okay, sorry." So, we've got a lot of time to build it up and to get those tickets sold, but I'm expecting this to be a huge hit, and I want to do an annual Rock and Wrestling Rager. That's my goal.
Mike Chiari, final question?
Yeah, your band Fozzy's latest hit is Judas. I think it's an awesome song, and it's done so well for you guys on the charts. And I know they're different mediums, but how does the feeling of having a hit song like Judas compare to a big accomplishment in wrestling, like winning a title or really getting a character over or something to that effect?
It's weird. I think it might be even harder to get a number one song in music because, it's hard to become a champion too, so that would probably be very similar in that it's a real pat in the back for years of hard work, and this is not a song that went into number one instantly. It went from 15 to 10 to 9 to 8 to 7. So we're building this fan base. I think there's a lot of people that have heard heard of Fozzy, but never actually heard Fozzy before. And now that's changing. I think a lot of people are checking out the band because of what they've heard about Judas, or because they know that Jericho left wrestling again to go back to Fozzy. And when they came and checked out our band, they suddenly heard the greatest song we've ever done in our career. So we've had successful songs in the past, nothing like this. It's a whole different level and a whole different world. And it's a really cool, once again, to know that after all this hard work we put in, which is the whole motto of my life, no is a four-letter word. And when people told me, well, you'll never make it in music, well, guess what? We just did. And that's very, very cool. And to see kind of the fan base growing and the buzz about the band growing, and knowing that we're still getting started. I mean, Judas is still rising in the charts, which is great. So it's been a pretty cool experience, but very, very well deserved after years and years and years of hard work.
A huge thank you to our guest tonight, Chris Jericho. Check out his new book, No is a Four-Letter Word, How I Failed Spelling But Succeeded in Life. Available on Amazon, at Barnes & Noble, and bookstores everywhere. Tell the fans where else they can support you.
No, that's cool, man. Yeah, I mean, come on, dude. Just Google me. You'll find me. I'm pretty easy to find.
Just Google me.
ChrisJerichoCruise.com is where you can find all the information on the Rock and Wrestling Rager and everything else, man. You'll find me. It's easy.
I can't wait till I become a celebrity where I can just say, just Google me. Just Google me. So never. It's never.
I never like it on podcasts. I go, where can we find you? Go to @mchamer.com. No one ever pays attention anyways. If you want to find me, you'll find it.
For mchamer.com better be a website, because I'm going there immediately following this.
Chris Jericho at mchamer.com.
Fantastic. Another huge thank you to Chris Jericho. Thanks for your time. Good luck moving forward, sir.
Cheers, guys. Thanks, man. Talk to you soon.